Welcome to Performance Driven Living, the podcast where we question everything. We don't tiptoe around tough topics, we walk right into them. Not to provoke, but to get closer to what's real. You might not agree with everything you hear, and that's okay. The show isn't about being right, it's about being real. These conversations are meant to stretch your thinking, challenge assumptions, and spark something deeper. The views shared are those of our guests and may not reflect those of the host or team. And while we dive deep into health, performance, and transformation, this is not medical advice. Talk to your doctor before making changes to your health or lifestyle. Take what lands, leave what doesn't. But whatever you do, don't stop questioning.
We are here at the Performance Driven Living podcast, and I have the distinct privilege of being joined by my friend Jay Campbell. And Jay, I always say I read the producer notes,
sure, because
I would never say the kind things about you that they put in here.
Exactly.
So,
like, who gives a shit? Hey, can you give me a bio? And then people just glorify
seriously,
their bio.
So today's guest is Jay Campbell. This is what's all written down here. A 5-time international best-selling author, men's physique champion, founder of the Jay Campbell podcast, and co-founder of BioLongevity Labs. Jay has built a powerhouse platform combining peak physical performance, hormonal health, and spiritual growth. He's not just teaching how to live longer, he's showing us how to live better.
That's awesome, man. So they say.
They
say.
They seriously, they put this stuff down here. I'm like, I want you to introduce me. Like, where's my intro on here?
That was really good. I think I should steal that and put that on my LinkedIn profile, bro.
For real. I wish mine read as nice. But I'm like, the problem is like I get people like you and Ben Azadi and stuff like that, and JJ's actually going to be on here later.
Awesome,
and I laugh, I'm like, I feel like an absolute impostor having
not an
you
imposter,
guys.
Bro.
Like,
get out of here. He's not an imposter.
Well, no, it's like seriously though, it's like just you guys are pillars in this community.
Appreciate it, man.
And it means a lot to even have relationships with you guys.
Awesome, man. Well, I feel the same about you, man. And I know we've known each other for a long time, and we actually finally just met earlier this year, which you were heading to that one.
So
I was leaving that one, and so now we finally hooked up, and now we've seen each other in so many different places
every
since
time.
then. Yeah.
Well, the part that makes me laugh is that was one of those manifesting moments, and we were just talking about Trina Felber a minute ago, and Trina was the one that called me a manifester, and then it was so funny is that exact day I was just talking about you.
Yeah, that's crazy.
With somebody else, and it was related to a company that we work with, because my full-time business is to run a marketing agency, and then I've got investments in the biohack space, but I was talking about a client of mine that uses you in an affiliate sense, and we were chatting about it. I'm like, well, I can reach out to Jay, I guess. Like, that's fine, whatever. And I was just talking with my dad the day before, because my dad used to co-host a podcast with Jeff Gladden.
Oh, that's awesome, dude.
And
yeah, of course.
The Living Beyond 120.
Yeah, exactly.
And I was talking with my dad because my parents actually, they just sold it or are selling it. They had a house in Clearwater Beach. So when I was out there that weekend, I actually went and had dinner with them. Jeff came up in conversation. We walked into that podcast with C-Rock,
and there he is.
And I like, it's Jay Campbell. Like, that's hilarious. I was just talking about you. And while you and I were talking, Jeff Gladden walks out of the room. I'm like, what the hell is happening right now? I'm like, I'm creating people.
Totally awesome.
But it was just funny to just randomly run into people that I was just talking about.
Yes.
And like, again, I'm in this weird quantum space right now, but it's like, but I genuinely believe that energy attracts energy, right?
100%, dude.
And as I'm going through this stuff, it's just kind of funny. So yeah, it was funny running into you.
I mean, there was no coincidences, synchronicities of all of us in that 100%. Same timeline running into each other.
100%. Yeah. And what's really funny is that y'all were there with Mike C-Rock.
Yep.
I was actually there with Anthony and Teresa.
Yes. Exactly.
So it was just kind of this funny, we all ended up in the same place at the same time on accident kind of thing, which I just think is too much.
Which, by the way, which is, again, no coincidence. Teresa just emailed me 10 minutes ago about the
Shield. Now we're talking about her.
About Shield. Like, I haven't talked to her or spoken to her of her
in
a couple of months. Yeah, we're in Shield.
Oh, so are we.
Yeah, so exactly. So she just literally said, like, deliverables and said, hey, click in here, go into the Dropbox file, blah, blah, blah. Everything's ready to roll.
I should probably check my email more.
Probably. I mean, honestly, like, she popped up on Instagram because she sent me a message, and I have certain people marked as like, I'll look, and she says, hey, check your email. So like as I saw that, I just flipped into my email. I was just standing in my booth right after our show, and it was funny. Like maybe 45 minutes later. So it's hilarious that you just mentioned all those people.
I know, weird,
it's
right?
The same thing.
Yeah. Jeff Gladden's going to walk in here in a minute.
Probably.
Teresa Lally, for those of you who don't know, is actually the co-founder of Biohack Yourself, which is a film that's available right now on Amazon Prime.
Yes, sir.
Very cool. And Jay and I both are actually in their sequel called Shield. Which is literally She Healed, which is talking about women's health specifically.
100%.
And I'm sure you're talking about peptides.
Yep, bioregulators for women and how they help with like hormonal optimization as they get older. A lot of amazing stuff that we shot like a 45-minute segment. I don't know what will, of course, either do you. We don't know what will make the film
what
yet,
actually gets the cut.
But I know it was amazing. It was top notch. And obviously
awesome.
Anthony and Teresa are amazing people.
Love them. I just
they have so much pressure on them, and there's so many people in their face and wanting this and that, and they're always so super respectful. Not only are they respectful, I don't know how they keep up with so many people, dude.
It's insane.
Because they really do stay on top.
And their fashion.
I mean, they're incredible, dude. I mean, they really are really, really good people.
They are. I just had dinner with them because they go to dinner all the time. I live downtown Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah, sure.
And they have dinner all the time at the Fogo de Chao right across the street from my house.
That's hilarious.
So like Teresa will text me, "We're at Fogo. Where are you?" But it's kind of funny, right? Well, Jay, like I'm stoked to have you here because Peptides is, as you said, 300 people couldn't even get into your talk today because there was such a demand for the knowledge that
massive
you're sharing.
Mainstream consciousness.
And bioregs, I'm going to tell you, I've got a refrigerator full of bioregs, and I haven't even started using them because I'm like, holy crap! Like I've got a Pitolon and you name it, I've got bottles of them all over the place.
That's awesome.
And so I'm a peptide guy. I have been for a long time. I probably have 12 times the knowledge of the average person and probably one fraction of what I actually should know.
You said the word Pitolon correctly, so yes, we already know that.
A Pitolon. But that's a Natalie Needham. Nat's a good friend of mine. So Nat's my bioreg coach. Of course. But the funny thing is that we in the peptide world, like it's all over the place.
Yes.
Like, you can't get away from it. And most people don't even understand what a peptide is. No. They're hearing this buzzword all over the place, and now we're seeing the cosmetics industry is starting to, peptide infused.
I mean, down there is And1. They got their big patent or whatever with the 0101 or OS01. They've got like the skin therapy form of that. They're down there. I just walked by there just to get here, But yeah, I mean, dude, peptides are all the rage. And honestly, as I spoke about this morning, and I'll just tell you right now, they've become mainstream consciousness for one specific reason. A lot of people will talk about this because it's a taboo subject, but it's due to vaccine injury. So many people are injured.
I would argue there's two other reasons.
Well,
go ahead.
I mean,
that's the biggest one. I agree.
Obviously, metabolic dysregulation and insulin resistance is a major thing, but that's what really catapulted them into mainstream consciousness, where people are looking for alternative forms of healing.
I agree with that, and I agree that peptides became a big thing post-vaccine.
100%. Yeah. It's all from it's 2023 and on, and as you know, because we've talked about it, but like my book came out and again, no coincidences, but it came out literally on February 1st, 2023.
That's amazing.
And it exploded on Amazon because like it was the first.
Because everybody was looking for it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and now subsequently, there's been some amazing books written, and shout out to all the authors that have written other follow-up books and stuff like that. I have a book on GLP-1 peptides coming. It's almost done. It's probably
second reason
a couple
peptides
of months.
have become a big deal.
Yeah, exactly. and we'll talk about that, but like, unfortunately, as you know, most of the media on GLPs is negative.
Correct.
And it should be the opposite. And we talked about that this morning because like the two-stage and three-stage, and not to just rabbit hole and not talk about other stuff, but these are life-altering, transformative drugs if used in a clinically precise dose.
Correct.
And as you know, it has to be microdosed. And there's all sorts of things. I even have the 10 commandments of GLP-1s that we could talk about. But I mean, the truth is that most people do them incorrectly, Mark, because the doctors that are prescribing them to them are looking to make a quick dollar. Yeah. And they start high, go higher, saturate obviously the manufacturer's pockets, the provider has to get paid, and then of course the pharmacy rep that comes in and pushes them. And then as you know now, the big deal is for 2 years, they couldn't make them fast enough, so they gave compounders the ability to do emergency use, and now they're pulling that out of the compounders' hands.
Which gets to the third reason why I think peptides have become such a big conversation, and that is the FDA stepping in and actually starting to make a scuttlebutt about it.
Yeah, and literally as of, in that same thing, in September of 2023, they said these 27, most used, most sourced, most known or well-known peptides are now in classification B, which means may cause harm or not shown to be clinically efficacious, which and I know is a total lie. I mean, absolute total lie. And again, why are they doing that? Because they cannot control, from a patent standpoint, the actual manufacturing and the money making, which with GLPs, they can.
Well, and peptides actually compete with pharma.
100%.
Sorry, that's kind of what we're really talking about here.
Of course. Yeah, and they wouldn't compete with pharma if pharma could actually patent them and sell them, right? But
which is the reason to regulate them, because 100%. Then pharma will patent them.
100%.
Pharma will sell them and then profit from them.
But I don't know if they can, because I mean, they will with the GLPs and they will with the other ones. I mean, I think right now, and this is just my personal opinion, and I've been using, for the record, for the audience, I've been using peptides since literally 2004. So it's been my 21st year. I tell a lot of people that and they're like, what? You know, but I mean, it was like back then, it was just like when I was using therapeutic testosterone and you were learning your way on how to use, you know, TRT, TOT, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
We were using, you know, everybody was crowdsourcing like these other things, and ipamorelin came out in 2004, and we're like, oh, this is something you use along with testosterone, and you get better fat loss and better muscle building, right? So obviously things have, you know, transpired, and we've moved now into where people are using GLPs for all the amazing reasons that we talk about. But the truth, the real truth is that most people do not use GLPs correctly. Big Pharma wants people to continually use them incorrectly, because then they continually make money, right? Because people are sicker, fatter, more inflamed, more depressed, all these other things. And they never end up finding out that you could use a GLP for the exact opposite reasons and still get much better results.
Well, and part of the issue, I mean, like, I think GLPs are a great way for a person to support behavioral changes.
100%.
The problem is we're not using GLPs as a way to support behavioral changes. We're using it as a cheat code.
Exactly.
And I literally just watched a staff member of ours who's been on what was tirzepatide, I think is what she's been on, which is a GLP-1 agonist, right?
Exactly.
And she's been on tirzepatide for nearly a year. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, you can't even think straight. Like, you're so undernourished.
Right.
Like, you don't eat food, but you still drink alcohol.
Yeah, I mean, exactly.
Like, you'll have a bite of lasagna at dinner and 2 drinks. And it's like, and that's your definition of weight loss. I'm like, or it also means that you probably lost 40% of your muscle mass over the last 12 months.
50. There's 4 things that people have to do when you use a GLP-1. And these are non-negotiable. And the smart doctors that understand this, and thankfully there are some out there, say that it's malpractice if you don't offer this to your patients. But number 1 is you absolutely have to eat enough protein. Okay.
100%.
So you've got...
And by enough protein, tell us.
Yeah, I'll explain it exactly. I mean, the clinical statement would be enough to support your actual lean body mass, but most people don't know what that means because they can't configure how many pounds of muscle they have in their body, especially if they're metabolically deranged.
If we could approximate a gram of protein for each body weight.
The answer is your goal body weight, 1 gram per pound for goal body weight. So if you're 300 pounds and you're a woman and you should be 140 pounds, then obviously your grams of protein is 140. But as you said, most people are protein malnourished. The second thing is, and this is, I think, the biggest thing, is if you start a GLP-1 peptide, because they're so profound in the ability to lose fat and, of course, lean tissue, if you're not hormonally optimized, you're on the wrong path. And so many of these people see doctors.
Women.
Yeah, exactly. So many of them do not see doctors that know how to hormonally optimize them. As you know, Mark, most of them don't even know they're not hormonally optimized. They don't know they have a hormone deficiency. So that's already now down the second path. You're doomed with those 2 things not met. 3 and 4 is, number 3 is, are you weight training? Are you doing bone-bearing resistance training? If you're not doing weight training, you're going to lose muscle again. Then the number 4 is, are you living insulin controlled? Because if you're not living insulin controlled, like you said, you're eating pizza, you're drinking alcohol, you're not changing your dietary strategy. And so all of those things lead up to hormonal loss, muscle loss, dysregulation, thyroid dysregulation, hair loss. I mean, did you hear all these stories, all these lawsuits? There's massive, they're already in category class action lawsuits where they're going after Lilly, they're going after not Mounjaro, but what's the company? The company that makes Ozempic, whatever. I can't think of them right now, but both of those 2 are the biggest primary, and they're all going to get thrown out because once they have actual medical licensed people as the, in cross-examination, they're going to be like, all of this stuff is written, on the actual contraindications of like what you must do, but nobody follows it because, like you said, we live in an easy button world now. Nobody wants to do the work. They want the cheat code.
And well, 2 things. First thing is I'll laugh and say, I saw a meme the other day that made me crack up laughing because it said, I don't need to lose weight, but I'm going to start taking Ozempic for a minute just to get on the class action. I was like,
shit.
That's so sad, but so accurate.
So true.
The other one that I was going to say is that when we're thinking about GLPs and this whole behavioral change problem, and you talk about putting in the work, And I mean, you're a men's health coach and have been for a very long time. And I was reading an article the other day about there will never be a satisfaction in a man until the man is working on self-improvement.
Yeah, exactly.
That men by our very nature want to constantly be improving. If that's working out, if that's reading, if that is doing something to go, it's that warrior archetype that needs to be going out and doing something bigger than what we did yesterday.
Yes.
And I would argue and say that we've created a culture of people who believe that the lazy man's video game world has created a culture of beta males.
100%.
That has been a whole nother issue. And we'll get back to peptides here, but
that's totally true.
It is. It totally is. And I was actually talking, you're familiar, obviously you were at the same benefit dinner I was the other night, and talking about how do we move this health and longevity and wellness movement into college campuses. And one of the conversations I was having earlier in the week was about, I'm sure you've heard it, the idea that strong men create good times and good times create weak men.
100%.
Weak men create bad times and bad times create strong men.
Yes.
And I was saying, like, we watch this cycle repeat through history, and I believe we're in the weak men have created bad times, but bad times are now raising up strong men.
There's actually, it's 100% all true. There's actually an author in Israel named Roy Barzilai. He's a really good friend of mine, and he's actually he writes about this, and he says it's all predictable through solar cycles. And so right now, like the solar cycle, the ebb and flow of the sun was very low from 2019 to 2024, and now we're going back up again. And he says that he's got it all mapped out in his book, but he goes back literally like 800 years, and he shows like when civilization is at a rock bottom and then it goes back up to peak. And now we're in a process, according to him, where like strong men, stronger society, stronger civilizations are going to come back. And you could probably make an argument that's true. I mean, obviously, whatever Trump represents, he represents more of an alpha type.
He's definitely an alpha male.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, if that's where we're going, I mean, you are seeing obviously a lot more independent alternative forms and political movements all across the world. So
I was going to say all over the world.
Yeah,
this isn't a
global.
Trump thing.
It's a global thing. And so that's why, his name is Dr. Roy Barzilai, but he's a friend of mine, so I just call him Roy. But he says it all peaks and flows, or ebbs and flows in solar cycles. And to what you're saying, I mean, look, dude, like, all you have to do is go out to any major airport, convocation center, stadium, or whatever, look around at the average man. I mean, the average man, if you look at them from behind, you can't tell the difference between a man and a woman. They have so much estrogenic body fat.
Yeah.
They're, like you said, they're emasculated, they're beta, they're cucked, all these words. But it's because, and this is a true story, and I talk about this all the time on podcasts and stuff, and I know we're talking peptides, but this is a, apropos statement. The differentiation between a male and a woman, an XY and an XX, is literally testosterone in utero. Mm-hmm. So we are now in a society where testosterone is so low, and this is all due to the chemicalization and toxin load from everything, right? Modernization, plastics, endocrine disrupting chemicals, glyphosate, atrazine. I mean, all of this toxic soup that we exist in. We just have natural babies, men and women, born with lower levels of testosterone. And so when you have this low level of, again, call it the sexual differentiating hormone, which is, again, testosterone, the master sexual differentiating gland, you have weaker societies. And so now we have much weaker people who come out of the womb. They have lower testosterone. I mean, bro, you can, people joke about this, but you can look at, like, even professional athletes, like, look at the NBA. You have stick figure NBA basketball players now, right? Like, their bone mineral density is weaker because, again, they did not have the testosterone that you and I had 20, 30, 40 years ago. It's a different society. And so when you factor that in societal wide right now, and this is mostly noticed and observable, obviously, in first world, you don't see this kind of degradation going on in, like, the wilds of, like, upper northeastern Europe or places where you just don't have all this contamination. So you have more normal people, more normal bone mineral density. But this is all what modernization and I call the hyperchemicalization of the world has done. We've created weaker men, weaker women, and again, just this confusion. This, if you want to go down the whole trans and the sexual or confusion thing, it's all due to a lack of testosterone in utero, or a lack of enough testosterone in utero for people to actually understand who they are.
Did you see that they actually recently did a study? And I'm not trying to make this political.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, anybody who knows me knows where I fall. But
sure.
But the reality, they did a study, which speaking of testosterone levels, and they actually randomly measured testosterone levels amongst liberal men versus conservative men.
And they have none.
And
Liberals have none.
And it was just the testosterone levels in conservative men were just like, it was an off the charts.
The study actually went, I know I'm very familiar with this, the study went actually deeper, and if you gave the man who was liberal therapeutic testosterone,
he actually became more conservative. Right.
That's a fact. I mean,
right.
I mean, you and I know this, right? We're long-term, college guys.
Toxic masculinity.
Toxic masculinity. I actually was not allowed to go on podcasts from 2018 to 2021 because literally, the companies that I paid to get me on podcasts said, "Oh no, you've been labeled by the mainstream as toxically masculine. You talk about testosterone." I swear to God, that's actually true. When I talked to Mike at the beginning of last year, he's the first company that I actually went back with in 3 years to get me on podcasts, and I told him that was an obstacle for me, and I just want you to know that if you attempt to get me on major mainstream podcasts, that's going to be the pushback, because I used a couple other major companies back then and they all got the same thing. So he was like, "Are you serious, bro?" Because Mike's one of us.
Yeah.
And he was like, I'll take that in mind. But he goes, "Trust me, you're talking about peptides now. It's a different world. I can get you, blah, blah, blah." And so far he's been very successful. But I did deal with that stigmata. But dude, the truth is that if you think about like our arc in life, like, you go to high school, you graduate high school. If you went to college and didn't graduate or did graduate or whatever, you become very liberalized. You become very open-minded. Yep. But then as you get older and you become more successful and you get more material things and you have more life experience, you become more conservative. That's the arc of all people.
My dad used to always use the phrase that at 20 years old, if a man is not a liberal, he doesn't have a heart.
Exactly.
And by 30 years old, if he isn't a conservative, he doesn't 100%. Have a head.
But it's really pretty much true based on the experiences of life. Now, that's not to say that people aren't, sheltered or living in echo chambers. And I think echo chambers has been a big thing in the last 7 years due to COVID, due to people not interfacing. People not interfacing. People don't go and meet people anymore. Look at our younger kids. They can't communicate face to face. It's all technology. It's all screen. It's 5-second attention span. So all of that has played a role, but I mean, the reality is that you just said it. I mean, as you get older, you become more conservative in your values because you have more common sense and more experiential learning. Whereas in your early 20s, you're more open-minded and you want to make the world, better place, and you want to sing Kumbaya. I mean, I think back to like Obama. When Obama came in, everybody was behind him. Mm-hmm. Like, there wasn't a single person that wasn't behind him because everyone wanted to see a person of color become the president of the United States. And who couldn't champion that? But then, you see the policies, you see what happens after, and you're realizing there's a lot of brainwash going on. There's a lot of cultural indoctrination going on. And then, of course, now with technology, I mean, everything is a mess. I mean, bro, if we started talking about AI, that's a whole nother podcast.
It's like, go on the AI channel. So I want to steer us a little bit back to the peptide, conversation, because this is your area of specialty, and we could go off on politics all day. And I love the conversation because I genuinely believe that the movement, again, we were at this benefit dinner on Tuesday night for the Lifelong Wellbeing Foundation, which brought together some of the biggest names in the industry, right? Like, we're literally in a room with Dave Asprey and Jim Quick and Callie Means and Del Bigtree and Habani Hari and Candace McDonald and me.
Sure. But I was gonna say, when's Jay Campbell coming?
Exactly. But I mean, we get these big names all together in a room and create a conversation about how do we impact beyond just selling things to people.
Exactly. Yeah.
And how do we really have an impact on that? But I see it as a very apolitical movement, and I see it as how do we get back to normal in a lot of ways. Yeah. But I was having this conversation with JP Sears, actually.
Sure.
JP.
I love JP. Yeah, he promotes our products. He was at the booth yesterday. Awesome. Yeah, of course. Amazing.
And chatting with JP and just talking about, you had a child. How did that change your boldness?
Exactly.
And it was actually fun to hear his answer because he's like, because I was like, a lot of people, when they have a child, they kind of soften.
Yeah.
Like there's this, warrior archetype, as he was referring to it, that, goes out, conquers the world, but now I'm a family guy, so I kind of get a little more domesticated.
Right.
And when I asked him just completely without, any kind of context, I'm like, you had a kid. How did that change your boldness? And he's like, it empowered me more than you can even imagine. I'm like, really?
Actually sound like his voice when you said that. Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
I know. He was hanging out at our booth all day yesterday, so I got a chance for the first time in person to meet him. We had talked because he promotes our products. His recent skit on California, have you seen that?
Hilarious.
That's literally one of the greatest things I've ever seen. I've sent that to more, because I'm an ex-Californian, so I've sent that to more than 100 people, and not a single person that I sent that to has not come back and said, this is dead on.
Well, because in the conversation, I mean, we had this whole conversation about his comedy, about how he's just calling out stupidity on any side.
California, dude.
California's a mess.
Whole nother story, bro.
But the conversation with him was about like this archetype, and he's just like, no, like having a child made me bolder.
Yeah, of course.
And he's like, you know, he's like, that didn't domesticate me. It actually brought out this warrior in me that was like, no, I want to fight for my child. Like, I want to fight for the world my child's going to grow up in now. Like, I want to speak out even more about nonsense. I'm like, 100%. I love to see that. But that, again, this conversation about, I'm going to take us into, you know, we talked masculinity, we talked this, and I'd made the comment about a man is truly thriving when he's becoming better than he was yesterday.
100%.
And peptides are a hack for that.
Yes.
Right.
Yes,
Particularly, you mentioned epamorelin, but tesamorelin, CJC, like all of these other types of peptides that when used correctly are increasing muscle. Muscle produces greater levels of testosterone. Testosterone produces greater levels of achievement. Like all of these things work together, and you're the peptide guy.
Yep.
So I'm a peptide guy. I'll say I probably play in it compared to you.
Sure.
But I will say, like, this finger, like I literally cut the top of my finger off the day before Easter.
Jesus.
And was in the ER and everything else because it wouldn't stop bleeding. Like, you can't even tell which finger it is.
That's incredible.
It's a month.
That's awesome.
You know, and it's funny because like people don't think, like, part of it is like, well, that's just, I mean, I'm the Wolverine, right? Like I heal so fast, but it also means that the minute I came back from the hospital, I also did a GHK-Cu mixed with a BPC 157, right? Of course. Little TB 500, like got it all injected and was like, okay, let's grow a finger back. And I did. Like in no time flat, it's just back. Tell. You can't even tell that anything was wrong with it. And it was like, I mean, I've got a hangnail here, but aside from that, it's like you can't even tell anything. And peptides are a way that we can optimize.
Yes.
And for me, like I use peptides not because it's, you know, some weird cheat code, not because I'm trying to replace an actual good behavior, but to enhance what I'm already doing.
To slow down your aging process. I mean,
absolutely.
They're incredible, man. I mean, like, it's funny because you talk about that, like, and for me and you, it's nothing, right? But for 80% of the public, they have no idea.
What were those letters?
They have no idea that we live in a world where we heal 6 to 10 times faster than they do. They have no idea that we live in a world where we literally can inject 3 times a week GLP-3 or retatrutide, whatever you want to call it, and be leaner, more metabolically active, have better energy, have less brain fog, have, you know, absolutely no food noise, completely control our appetite fast for 24 hours, whatever we need to do. I mean, that's the world we're in now. I mean, the world has separated with like those who have the awareness or the knowledge, the gnosis, and those that don't. And it's insane. I mean, again, I just spoke about this morning. There was a room of people. It was probably 100 seats and whatever was standing room only. And as I told you, literally a couple hundred people were turned away without a doubt who had tickets. It was completely sold out. And just looking at their bright eyes and their questions at the end, because we sped through the presentation so we could do a Q&A section and stuff like that. There's nothing right now in the world that's moving the needle like peptides.
Agreed.
People want to know how to use them, how to stack them, when they can come off them, you know, how do they cycle them? Why does some of them produce water retention and some don't? Why do some do this, some do that? You know, like it's just this giant mass consciousness movement. And dude, never was it more prevalent that like after the show was over, after our presentation was over, these people, was like a stampede, followed us up to our booth. I mean, it was insane. Like literally, I felt like we needed to have security around us as we went up the escalators from the 4th floor to where our booth was on the 5th floor. But it was incredible. And so many of these people came back and dude, you could just see it. Like I said, they're so bright-eyed, so wide-eyed and bushy-tailed, asking questions about peptides because they all truly do, especially at a Dave Asprey conference, want to slow the aging process, want to improve their biomarker function. I mean, literally, it does potentially represent a fountain of youth effect if these things are done correctly. And that's the problem, as you know, is we have such a signal to noise ratio in the world right now due to social media. And as you know, bro, I mean, most of it is noise. Well, and it's so hard.
And to add in there, one of the biggest reasons for people's curiosity around peptides is they don't come with an instruction manual.
No, they don't, dude. No. And honestly, dude, it's funny you say that. I've been saying this since my first peptide course I put into the wild, way before I actually had a peptide book out there. It was in 2021. I don't even remember the name of the course anymore because we don't sell it. If somebody finds the ClickFunnels page, it's still out there. But we told them, one of my ex-business partners, shout out to Nick Andrews, we told people that if you did not have 100 IQ, you should not use peptides because it literally does require fractionated math. you have to, and by the way, this is way before there were peptide calculators, which we've now created, and we've done all these things and, built cheat codes and stuff like that. But before then, you had to understand the difference between a microgram, a milligram, how to reconstitute bacterial static water into a peptide. You had to know whether the peptide was lyophilized or the peptide was just a pure raw form. I mean, there were all these things that people, like, again, 5 or 6 years ago, and again, going back to when I was using them 20 years ago, had to understand before you could ever use them. But now we've made it to a point where it's like so simple. I mean, bro, we were literally talking at the end about peptide pens, right? Medical grade pens where you can put 3 or 4 peptides in one pen. Again, GHK-Cu, TB500, BPC, and even Cardilax all in the same pen, and you have like the ultimate Wolverine healing pen. Yeah, and you can inject it in your face. Women can use like a 4 mm micron needle. So again, the technology is there. It's just, how do you find who the people are to listen to? Who is it that you want to trust? Because, bro, I mean, I think you know this now too, and this is the shit that I'm dealing with, is like a lot of people are claiming themselves to be peptide experts using peptides for 3-4 months. Yes. They have absolutely no idea what they're doing. And a lot of these people are literally just watching people like me, listening to podcasts, live streams, reading the books, and just imitating and just regurgitating shit that they found out, and then going out there and claiming to people that they're peptide coaches. I mean, it's the most insane thing, but it is a phenomenon.
It's a wild west, like the peptide, and it's this subcategory within the biohack space.
Yes.
And biohacking in and of itself is already a wild west. And everybody claims that their one thing is going to cure everything, which is not the case.
Exactly.
And then we get into peptides, which is like just one layer deeper in the rabbit hole. And there's so much confusion around them, and I'm not even close to the level you are in understanding this. But I get phone calls all the time.
Of course. From
people, because why? Well, because I know one thing more than they do, so I'm an expert.
Yes.
But it's funny because I watch how someone like you or me or my dad or someone who I know, and like I've got several friends that are deep into peptides, and it's like, but it almost becomes this little bro network where everybody shares what they're doing, because like, well, what have you been doing? Well, I've been doing this. Oh, I have to try that.
That's
because
literally
it's this trial and error kind of thing, and we're injecting, whatever. But it's funny to me. Like, I live in a high-rise building downtown, and a buddy of mine that lives a few floors up calls me one day, dude, like I've got this pain in my elbow, like I'm just having this issue. What do I do? Blah, blah, blah. Like, it didn't even dawn on me. Like, is there a peptide that I can be doing? I'm like, well, I'm out of town right now, buddy, but do me a favor. I'll call the front desk, have them send you up to my place. Go in the fridge. There's a little vial that's blah, 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 blah.
That's awesome.
And it's like,
but then you're like, wait a minute, I don't know if he can actually do this.
He can, because he actually uses peptides. He just didn't have what I suggested. And he's like, all right. And he's like, are you sure? Dude, like, next day, he's thank you so much. I'm like, and he's like, I'll pay you. I'm like, I don't care about the money. Like, that's not the case. Like, I'm just glad you got it. And it's like, but it almost like we've got these little magic potions in the refrigerator
100%.
that the rest of the world doesn't understand. Like, this is like Harry Potter crap.
It is Harry Potter, dude.
That we've got this stuff that we're like living these weird immortal lives, literally because we just understand, microproteins.
Dude, when we brought out the peptide pen, I had my insulin cooler, because after we got done speaking, we're like, oh, because people were asking us, like, what do you guys see as the next best thing? And we're like, we talked about 2 things, and you don't even know this yet, but like in 2 or 3 weeks, we're going to be releasing a buccal patch that is somewhere in the math, we're doing stability testing, but it's somewhere between 12 and 15% less efficacious than any injectable. So we're this close now to having an oral delivery system. And as you know, Mark, 80% of the public, this is a fact. I've known this for 20 plus years, going back to my days in therapeutic testosterone, will not inject.
Yep.
They will not inject no matter what. So if you can bring and break the ultimate barrier of entry of injection and bring something that's almost as efficacious as an injection. And again, it's not there yet, but it's close, and it's way better than any oral peptide. It's going to be transformative. And so we're bringing that into the marketplace, dude, in 3 months. I mean, last night, true story, I'll tell you this. You're the first person in the world that knows this. I used the CJC 1295 oral, again, buccal strip. I took 2 of them. They're 250 micrograms, which, as you know, is a super low dose of it. Bro, I was knocked the fuck out. I slept in this horrible hotel with the shitty water. Again, shout out to the Fairmont. I slept for almost 4 hours without waking up, which was like a miracle. And I was like, I told the formulator, it's a woman, her name is Sarah Morgan, amazing. She's going to be famous in the world right now because she broke this formulation. But I told her when I woke up this morning, because she was at our booth, I said, dude, you did it. It works. It absolutely works. My wife used it last night too, and she takes melatonin, so she wasn't the better sample because she uses a high dose of melatonin. But she felt like she slept even better than when she does melatonin by itself. So we're really close. That's why I'm bringing this up on this podcast, that delivery system technology is improving. So I guess within the next 16, 18, 24 months, we will probably have that so perfected that people won't need to inject anymore. That's how close we are.
This is a terrible story, but I'm going to tell you anyways.
Yeah.
So a cousin of mine was at my house maybe a year or so ago, and he's recovered now, but a former heroin user so on and so forth, right? So yeah, the issues. But he's in my kitchen, and it's like, I'm just doing my morning routine, like my,
of course.
Dosing out my 75 different supplements and everything.
Like, what are you doing?
Go in the fridge, grab the needles, and it's like, and he's got like this thing of, needles now, like don't put needles near me.
Of course.
And I lied, but like I had a BPC injection. And I took the BPC and I shot it into my shoulder.
Out, dude.
And he's just like,
what the fuck is going on?
Oh my God, what are you doing? And I was like, just putting
Injecting
peptide in. And he's like, what are you doing? I'm like, and I literally was just injecting it right into my neck, really. And he's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, just
he had no idea.
Peptide. And he's like, how can you stand injecting yourself there?
They don't know, dude.
I'm like, and I'm looking at him like, you used to inject between your toes. Like, what are you talking about? Like, but the reality is like, you're right. Like, there are people who are just needle averse. There are people who are pill averse. There are all of this kind of stuff. So Jay, like, you're in this peptide space now. You've made a pivot into peptides exclusively because obviously you see that there is a future here.
Yeah.
And not just a financial future for yourself.
Of course, helping the world.
Literally impacting the world through being able to do this kind of stuff. And BioLongevity Labs, relatively new company.
Yep, 6 months old.
Yep, 6 months old company that has actually, kind of stormed the industry.
Stormed the industry, yeah.
And coming up with stuff that's not been there before and revolutionizing peptides. But more important, peptides already existed.
Yes.
You're educating people about peptides, which is the most important thing.
Yeah, and honestly, true story, and again, you and I have already talked about this, but I was one of the biggest affiliate salespeople in the world for peptides for the last 3 years. Shout out to Limitless Life Nootropics, great company, still makes great peptides, but the owners got into an argument, and so each owner wanted to make me their other partner. So I was like, I gotta move. And obviously, yeah. So my business partner, obviously Hunter Williams, shout out to Hunter. Him and I spoke today, amazing guy. We're like, let's build our own. We already had a CTO who was, by the way, the CTO of other peptide companies. And so we knew we had the technological infrastructure to build it. We're basically attempting to get into the marketplace ourselves. And as you know, credit card processing is not easy with research peptides and bioregulators and all this stuff. And again, it's a very nebulous world, but we also knew that RFK was coming in, right? This is literally after Trump had been elected. We knew that RFK was pro-peptides. He was pro-alternative therapies. So we just basically partnered with, again, Trina Felber's husband, Josh Felber, who's a good friend. Shout out to Josh. Been a long-time friend of mine, and he had credit card processing, and he had know-how in the business, and he wanted to get into the bioregulator space. So we just basically combined forces, and here we are 6 months later. And you're right, dude. Like, everything has been in the right place at the right time. Again, no coincidences, only synchronicities. But we are making transformative formulations. We are building products. So just to sidetrack, or just rabbit hole for a second here. Like, I always had a goal in my life to build the Amazon for biohackers, right?
Oh, that's fun.
So it's always been in the background of my mind, like, how could I build a company with products that could serve the globe and would always be at, like, literally the tip of the spear. And so that's what this company is now. So everything that we've manufactured from a standpoint of USA made peptides, we don't have brawls coming from China. Everything is literally now synthesized either in our labs in Philadelphia or Florida. There are some brawls that come out of China that, you can't get around because of where they're based at, but we're synthesizing the majority of our products in the United States. So in addition to that, we also have, obviously, as you know, Cavinson bioregulators. And now we're getting into our own exclusive batch formulations, which again are all in the United States. And I'm telling you, Mark, I mean, again, you already know some of our formulations. We are coming out with stuff that will literally revolutionize the business, from the buccal peptide strips to a hair regrowth product that will, no doubt about it, regrow hair on a bald head.
Oh,
I mean,
amazing.
it's a very powerful peptide
How
formulation.
about gray hair? Does it deal
Kitchen
with that
sink,
too?
it will darken hair 100%. So
that's my issue.
Yeah. So I mean, this product, so we can't really market that it will darken gray hair, but it's kind of I wouldn't call it a side effect, but it's a positive beneficial effect of regrowing hair. You actually get darkening of the roots.
I just think
so
our
roots, the roots will get darker and thicker. So if you're naturally black, you'll get darker black. If you're naturally brown, it'll probably be a thicker shade of brown. And that's normally what happens with like a kitchen sink peptide hair regrowth product. But this is the first one of its time or of its kind, excuse me. And I can definitely tell you this: we don't even know what the formulation is going to cost us from an actual manufacturing material cost. But I know that it'll be so expensive that probably a 45 to 90 day supply of this is going to be $1,000. But as you know, that's nothing in comparison to a hair transplant, right?
For sure.
So most men and
you're going
women
like head to head with turkey right now.
Exactly. But most men and women will buy this product because even if you did have a hair transplant, it'll strengthen the follicles. It'll strengthen the roots of the actual follicles that have been grafted. And then another one, just to mention, we have a rejuvenation product coming. And this rejuvenation product is going to be a game changer too. Everything that we put into our formulations is stuff that I've thought about for literally years of my life.
Yeah.
That I always said in my mind I wanted to create a company, and I own the domain. It's called True Health, even though that's just going to be like one of our parent companies is the True Health parent. But
cool.
I wanted to, like, again, just think True Health. I wanted to build the best for everyone. Because as you know, it's always been limited. Most people in Europe and Asia can't even get peptides now. They can't. Australia outlaws peptides, right? So I wanted to make something that would be manufactured in the United States and shipped globally without issue. And so that's what we're working on. And I can tell you this right now, we're going to be the first company to go into India with peptides.
That's cool. Congratulations.
2 billion.
On that.
2 billion people there.
Yeah, that's
huge.
And
they're desperate, and they have, most men in India are skinny fat, inflamed, metabolically deranged, low testosterone. So it's a perfect trial market to really optimize the health of people because, again, in India, they're a first world country, but they're basically a second world society.
Yeah.
And so they're attempting to, the way it works in India is if you bring something into India, it has to be manufactured in India, but it has to say it has to say made in the USA by on the label, but it has to actually be made in India. That's how it works. Yeah, it's crazy. It has to be an American company, but it has to be actually made in India because you can't get anything through the Ministry of Health.
Yeah,
it has to be made on the ground in India.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And what I love about what you're doing with your formulas, and I encourage you to continue doing that just for the sake of consumers, is, as we said, peptides is this wild, wild west.
Yes.
And when you're talking about doing stacks and pens
Exactly.
and where this kind of stuff exists, I think that's a missing component. I mean, you'll find like a CJC and an ipamorelin compound
Yes.
and that type of stuff,
Yes.
but it's still a lost art.
It is.
That people understanding. Like I own a supplements company that we deliberately do vitamin stacks that affect specific systems of the body. Like if you're having digestive systems, like this is the one you take, and it covers all of the things for that. And this is a cardiovascular, and this is because people want simplicity. People don't want to know that, okay, I need to go take 1 vitamin A and I need to go take 2 vitamin C's and I'm gonna have to take half a capsule of zinc, and and they don't know what to buy. They don't know how to dose, and I don't blame them, right? Because for most of the stuff, I don't think I would be able to spout off exactly what they need. But the truth of the matter is I happen to know that we've got one of the best digestive support products I've ever used, and it's like and literally like if my stomach is feeling weird or I'm feeling bloated or anything, like recommended dose 2, I take 4. Nothing.
That's awesome.
Literally goes away, and I'm like, okay, that's fine. And it's all vitamin mineral based. So nothing's there. But the simplicity is, I think, what makes it magical, because I don't have to go take 6 different things. Exactly. I don't have to figure out 1 of these, 2 of these, 3 of those. And if you're doing that exact same type of thing with peptides, where the stacks are existing, and here's the outcome, go do this.
That's exactly what we're doing. I mean, we have a product called BioGut Pro, which is without a doubt class-leading microbiome dysbiosis issue peptides. It's got 6 peptides, and then it has 3 absorption enhancers in the peptides. So, and again, I already talked about it, but I'll mention it. Like, traditionally, most people realize that injectable is the highest impact delivery system versus oral. But oral delivery systems are clearly now improving technologically. And if you understand, like you said, how to blend them, how to synergistically mix them together, you can actually put stability agents and absorption agents in the blend that'll actually enhance the efficacy of the product. So again, the good news from us, and again, like I've spent so much time thinking through this, and we do have some formulators that are amazing too. Shout out to Alex Kickle. We think a lot before we make stuff. We don't just like willy-nilly throw it all together because all of these different products have efficacy or have ergogenic effect. We sit there and we think, okay, like, are there going to be cross-chain reactions? Are there going to be stability issues? What you mix, this chemical with this molecule. And so all of our products are really thought out, and we don't release anything unless we know there's not going to be any long-term issues. Like, I'll just tell you this one, nobody even knows this is coming, but we have a product called BioAbsorb, and it's going to be the first of its time. It's going to be metformin, dihydroberberine, which is, berberine, that's the most advanced form of berberine, and inositol, along with the B spectrum, because as you know, in a lot of people that have the polymorphic gene expression, metformin can deplete folate and deplete methionine. So like this supplement exactly will tackle all the issues of blood glucose, insulin sensitivity, and glucose disposal, but in a way that nobody who is sensitive to one of the agents in the I mean, it's a blend, and it's technically a supplement, even though there are drugs in it, will be, what's the word I want to say? Maligned, because we've addressed every single cofactor.
Yeah, which is great. And again, exactly. I'll go back to, I'm always looking at what does the consumer see.
Yeah, of course.
Right? That's always my optics on everything.
Sure.
Is how does that market, and how do people actually sell that?
Yep.
And again, it's make it easy.
Yes, exactly.
Consumers want it easy. And people are coming to your talk today because they want to understand. Like, people are thirsty for this knowledge. They don't understand what it is. And I'm going to say peptides remind me of the way that CBD was treated many years ago, that you go to a conference and everybody and their damn brother has a CBD infused something. And they're like, oh, but ours is different. It has CBD. And I remember going to a conference one time. It was actually a Cosmo prof. And I was like, I know yours has CBD. So does everybody's down this entire road.
Oh, we have medical grade CBD.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what are you doing any different? And peptides to me is now, it feels like the new buzzword.
It is. It is, dude. I mean, we should say this. You're the first person I brought this up. I actually now actually get disgusted when I go on social media now and I see all these people talking about peptides who literally don't understand what peptides are. Right. I mean, if you asked 85% of people who claim to be peptide experts, what is a peptide, they wouldn't be able to tell you.
Right.
They don't know that it's basically an amino acid sequence, fractionated proteins, signaling molecules at the cellular level, and they all work based on the length of the chain, right? A bioregulator or an oral-based peptide is a shorter chain, an injectable peptide has a longer chain. That's the simplicity of them. And again, they all mostly are organic. They're synthesized in a lab, right? I mean, most of them are synthesized, but because they're all organic signaling molecules, there's no side effects.
Well, in fairness, most people don't understand protein function. So the reality is, protein, and people start associating it with like chicken, as opposed to people actually understanding the real folding and unfolding process of protein.
This is a true story, dude. It's funny that you just brought this up. So my daughter is a junior in high school. She has a 1480 on her SAT. She's a brilliant, 4.5 and all the advanced courses. I literally asked her the other day, how many grams of protein, how many, from an energy macronutrient standpoint, how many calories in a protein, fat, and a carb? No idea. Absolutely no idea. Our society does not teach anyone about nutrition. But again, think about it. Exactly. That's where I was going. I mean, why would you want an educated society on nutrition, which, as you know, is the most powerful drug? Screw peptides and bioregulators and testosterone. Food is the most powerful drug. Why would we want them knowledgeable about that? If they were knowledgeable about that, they wouldn't make all the poor choices, and the big pharma, big agro, all that stuff would not exist, bro. Wouldn't even exist.
We're putting people on SSRIs while they're eating McDonald's.
Dude.
Like, it's totally different thing. But
literally insane.
But anyways, we do have a society that's gone upside down, and I love that there is
parabolically.
And I love that there's a fraction of the population, and I think
what do you think the percentage of people that are actually using peptides is? Just me to you.
Small,
less than 5%?
Oh, yeah. So I'd say small single digits, unless people are like having peptide injected retinol or something in their night mask.
I think you're right. I have a lot of people that come to me and say, oh, it's not true, bro. Like 12% to 15% of society is using peptides.
I would say 1 to 3.
Definitely less than 5%.
1 to 3.
I agree with you 100%.
And then after the FDA made all their changes, I know people that just like knee jerked away.
Yeah,
and it's like,
exactly.
I used to buy from Peptide Science a lot. And then you notice like websites are all over, and then they could only accept PayPal and all the other craziness.
But now I just listen to Jay Campbell and I buy his stuff.
Nice. But true. But the reality is that I think that we have a society that is thirsty for this stuff. I think we are in a bit of a tailwind moment right now where we're seeing a heightened sense of awareness that is not just Bobby Kennedy driven.
Yeah, of course.
There's a lot of things going on where maybe it's the sun alignment and that sort of stuff like your friend. But the reality is there's a lot of things going on right now, and I think bad times are creating strong men.
No doubt.
I can't wait to see what the next generation is able to pull off, because I think this group of college kids that we have coming out right now are just going to be different than we've seen in a while, because you're seeing values come back. You're seeing the highest,
100%.
You're seeing the highest concentration of church attendance is 20-something-year-old men. Just weird. Like,
they're just over the Biden administration and all the nonsense and the COVID, you know, all the shit that came with COVID. And we can just wrap by saying this, dude, like, because I haven't brought this up yet, and I know you're going to, you know, say, peptides are the crypto of healthcare.
I like
this
that.
is the decentralization. People now have two paths, right? Like, you can become, as I like to say, sovereign, empowered, and free, the proactive scientist of your own health, and pay whatever it costs out of your own pocket, or you can be, you know, the government
victim
subsidized,
to the healthcare system.
Exactly, the government subsidized sick care, illness medicine supporter, you know, advocate or whatever, and say my copayment is $40, and that's all I can pay for.
I just used that phrase earlier today.
But bro, that's where we are now. I mean, again, me and you are doing these crazy peptide injections and cocktails and blends and all this stuff, and these other people literally have no idea.
Right.
They go to their HMO or their PPO. They go to urgent care. They sit there when they have sniffles. I mean, you and I live in a different world, dude. 100%. We're in a quantum reality.
But the goal is old school. The goal is to get them over, and the goal is to not optimize just ourselves. So to carry that forward.
If it's 3%, dude, how much more can we get over?
Yeah, I agree.
That's the real question.
And
can we double it?
Education and simplification.
I mean, knowledge is power, but can we double it, or is 10% real?
I don't know. I actually tend to think that as form functions they start to improve, like you're saying, like it's not all injections, right? Because peptides are weirdos still,
of course.
But I think, as you know, even oral peptides, people are taking them more because, well, they don't 100%. Like needles, they don't like pills either.
Yeah, exactly.
But as you're starting to see topicals, and as you're starting to see these types of other things, like I think it's becoming more accessible to the average person. But supplementation itself is a struggle.
I agree.
For most people, compliance, patient compliance is the worst part of healthcare for conventional medicine as well as alternative medicine. Like, just getting people to comply
100%
is the biggest issue. Dude, like I'm so glad that you came by today.
Thank you, bro.
Like,
it was amazing.
BioLongevity Labs, I make a recommendation. In the show notes, you'll actually see the links to BioLongevity Labs. Can't wait to see what you're coming out with next.
Thanks,
all this cool stuff. Like, I love the idea that you're simplifying peptides for people and actually coming up with stacks that are pre-made, if that makes sense.
Exactly.
Like, you're pre-formulating, you're taking the guesswork out of peptides, 100%. Everything from bioregs all the way to high performance type things. And I'm also excited to see, like, as we're talking about, like, whether that's microplastics to low testosterone to all of the things that are actually causing oxidative stress on us and hurting our bodies in that way. I love to see that there are innovators out there that are actually finding solutions for these things and being available, because I think we can get our health back on so many different levels, but I think we can absolutely get it back. And for the men who are listening, who are looking for, what is my optimization? How do I perform better? Like, we're on performance-driven living right now. Like, how do I perform better? What is the 1% tomorrow that I wasn't able to do today? 1% better kind of thinking. Peptides are that push. Peptides are that one trump card that comes out and is able to take people to the next level. And I say that, you heard me talk about even the healing of my own finger. Like that's crazy to me. But that Wolverine healing type tactic, that idea that you're able to build muscle faster, the idea that you're able to, manipulate GLP agonists in your body to actually, increase your ability to be able to even fast.
Yes, exactly.
And fasting is just going to help you eliminate senescent cells, all the things that go with it, right? This is multi-factors to a much larger story. But thank you for being here, and thank you for giving that kind of stuff. Obviously, BioLongevity Labs we'll put in the show notes. Anywhere that people would want to follow you and your podcast.
Yeah, no, 100%. So I have a URL or a vanity domain that I send people to whenever I get on podcasts. And again, Drew, I love you. Thank you so much for having me on here today.
Sure.
jaycampbell.com/free books. And at that page, all of the books that I've written, which are 8, only 5 are international bestsellers, but I've written 8 books. I give away
That's
all
what was in
my
the intro.
books. I know it's a joke. I give away all my books, of course, always. It's downloadable free PDFs. There's also a bunch of other stuff that you can get there for free. As you know, bro, I'm a service to others individual, and it's all about impact. How many people can I serve? How many people can get this information? I'll leave you with this. We're also developing for the first time ever, it's coming very soon, a blend of NAD+, MOTS-C, and injectable 5-amino. And dude, that is going to be a game-changing peptide. Anybody who is metabolically dysregulated or insulin resistant or inflamed, I like the term metabolic dumpster fire. If you inject that peptide into you, you will have the energy of a totally different person. And again, as you know, for those type of folks, it's about giving them the motivation and the physical energy to move and to exercise and to feel better. And so that's going to be a game-changing peptide, right. And we're really excited about it.
And the truth is, only when we're able to reclaim that energy are we able to actually live out our purpose.
Exactly, dude.
And
exactly.
What's the Bobby Kennedy phrase that the man with no problems has 100 dreams, and the man with one problem has one.
One. That's true.
And I think that's the idea, is like, how do we get people back to optimal? Because when people are back to optimal, they're dreaming again.
Yes.
And a society that dreams is a society that grows, and I love that.
That's awesome.
Thank you so much for tuning in to the Performance Driven Living podcast with my guest, Jay Campbell. Appreciate you being here, buddy.
Thank you, brother. That was awesome.